cases like you see here, can you recall these cases like this? Century Insurance Company Limited versus Northern Ireland Road Transport Board. Adakah this case? Have I given you this case? Century Insurance Company
I
Limited.
don't think so. Do you have any case that will be shortened names a bit?
Okay, this is one of the leading case which you need to know here. Century Insurance, CENTURY, Century Insurance Company Limited versus Northern Ireland Road Transport. This is a case, like, you remember this guy was employed to work as a driver of an oil tanker, He went to a petrol station to fill up the tank in the petrol station, While he was doing that, he was smoking and he threw the butt, and then the whole petrol station was burnt down, And this case went to court. The judge made the employer of the driver to pay compensation to the owner of the petrol station, I have not given this case. Hello? Have I given that case? Ada ke tak ada? Hello?
Can't remember this.
Can't remember. That's important case. Oh, okay. Go and do some work on this case here. Go and do some work here. Mat Juso. Mat, M-A-T. Juso. J-U-S-O-H. Bin Daud. Bin Daud versus Syarikat Jaya Seberang. Syarikat Jaya Seberang. Takir Sendirian Berhad. Takir Sendirian Berhad. This case.
How to spell Dakil?
What's that?
How to spell the Dakil?
Takir. Takir. Takir Sendirian Berhad. Okay, and I give you one more case here, list 3 cases here. Tan Eng Siu. Tan Eng Siu versus Dr. Jagjit Singh. Tan Eng Siu versus Dr. Jagjit Singh. These are some of the cases you can apply. You can apply, yeah. Or I give you one more case also, yeah. Samin bin Hassan. Samin bin Hassan versus Government of Malaysia. Versus Government of Malaysia. These are the cases which you could, and these are some of the cases which you could use to establish. Yeah? Okay, clear? Okay, negligence here. Negligence, I think most of you are clear on this negligence, right? Hello? Negligence, are all of you clear on negligence? Hello?
If you don't mind, you can explain more. Thank you.
Because you know why? Negligence here, whichever, whether your negligence acquired an area, whether in your midterm or whether is it in your final or everywhere, yeah, you have negligence. You can never ever run away from negligence, Okay, you all know what is negligence, right? You all know what is negligence? What do you mean by negligence? Have you ever heard of the word negligence? Hello?
Yes.
What is negligence in your understanding? What is negligence in your understanding? What do you mean by negligence in your understanding? Apa tu negligence?
Is someone who they done some careless act which will harms to another person.
You do an act which could harm another person. If you do an act which could harm another person, then obviously that person can bring an action against you to recover for whatever loss, damage or injury which he suffered. Am I right? Betul kan? Okay, so here what you need to know is here, what you need to know here is here, what you need to know is here, what is negligence? Okay, what is negligence here? Negligence, the word negligence means here the omission or conduct. The omission or conduct to do something which a reasonable man or a right thinking man would not do. Negligence means here the omission, omission, omission or conduct, an omission or conduct to do something which a reasonable man or a right thinking man would not do. So that means here you have to differentiate between negligence and carelessness. Carelessness. Okay, so you know, okay, so now I'm sure you all know what are the leading case which deal with negligence. What's the leading case? Negligence come from the word duty of care, am I right? Negligence come from the word of duty of care, am I right? Hello?
Yes.
Duty of care, yeah? You see, so I just mentioned you all the definition of the word negligence, right? Okay, negligence, that means, yeah, that means you're doing an act which is unreasonable. You're doing an act which is unreasonable. If that unreasonable act could harm another person, then that person would bring an action against you for negligence. Am I right? Okay. So here, negligence. So that means here, the person who's doing an unreasonable act, yeah, it must be legal, you know. It cannot be moral. It must be an act which is legal. If it's moral, cannot. I think I've already explained to you all legal and moral, am I right? So the leading case is the case of Donahue versus Stevenson. I've already given you all right. Betul kan? Donahue and Stevenson, am I right? Because that is the leading case which lay down what is negligence and what is duty of care, right? In 1932, and the leading judge there was Lord Atkin, am I right? Okay? Betul kan? Okay, so there you need to give the facts of the case. There you need to give the facts of the case. You all know what's the facts of the case, right? Hello?
Yes. Decomposing.
You all know the name of the facts of the case, right? You all know, yeah? Okay. Once you have given that case, because based on that case, that is the case we're saying that what are the four elements need to be established? What are the four elements the plaintiff need to establish for duty of care to take place? What are the four elements? What are the four elements need to be established? Yeah,
For negligence, is it?
for negligence. So the first element, who need to show proof? Who need to show proof?
The plaintiff.
And the plaintiff. Okay, what are the four elements the plaintiff need to show proof?
The duty of care.
Okay, what do you mean by duty of care? Under duty of care, he need to prove four elements, right? What are the four elements the plaintiff need to show proof? That the defendant has done an act which is unreasonable. Am I right? The the defendant has done an act which is unreasonable. If that unreasonable act could harm the plaintiff, then the defendant owe a duty of care towards the plaintiff, right? True, isn't it? So that means the first element the plaintiff needs to prove is that the defendant has done an act which is unreasonable, and the unreasonable act has cause loss, damage, or injury to the plaintiff. That is the first element he needs to show proof, right? The unreasonable act must be unreasonable. Betul kan? Okay. Once you have established that already, you remember in that case here, the leading judge was Lord Atkin, am I right? The leading judge in that particular case was Lord Lord Atkin, am I right? Lord Atkin, am I right? Because you know why? Lord Atkin did mention one word, he put a hypothetical situation in that particular case. You know what was the hypothetical situation? He said, do you owe a duty of care towards your neighbor? He asked a question in the court, do you owe a duty of care towards your neighbor? Do you owe a duty of care towards your neighbor? Yes or no?
If you done unreasonable act,
Correct.
have
You only owe a duty of care towards your neighbor, provided you do an act which is unreasonable. And if that unreasonable act could harm your neighbor, then you owe a duty of care. Example, if you set fire to your house to claim for insurance, are you setting fire to your house to claim insurance? Will it endanger the neighboring house? Of course, right. Then you are answerable with the neighbor, because here you are doing an act which is unreasonable. Am I right? Setting fire to your house. That is an unreasonable act. Am I right? Betul kan? Okay. Once you have established the first element, then you have to go on to establish the second element. What's the second element you need to establish? What's the second element you need to establish? What's the second element you need to establish? There must be a breach. Am I right? There must be a breach. Am I right? Betul kan? There must be a breach. Am I right? Breach by who? Breach by who?
by the person duty of care.
Who's the person?
The person who done the unreasonable act.
That means the breach must be by the defendant. Am I right? Betul kan? The breach must be done by the defendant, and because this is a civil case, we're talking about plaintiff and the defendant. So that means the breach must be done by the defendant. So no point you are establishing duty of care. Once you have established duty of care, then the second thing you need to establish is, because of that act, there has been a breach. What is the breach? In Donoghue and Stevenson, what was the breach? What was the breach in Donoghue and Stevenson? What was the breach in Donoghue and Stevenson? Hello? Hello, what was the breach in Donoghue and Stevenson? What was the breach in that particular case, Donoghue and Stevenson? Anyone can help me? What was the breach there? The breach in Donoghue and Stevenson was that there was a decomposed snail inside that bottle of ginger beer. Am I right? That was the breach, right? True, isn't it?
Yes.
Because you remember this lady, she went and drank that ginger beer, and there was a decomposed snail in the thing, right? Betul kan? So the breach there was the decomposed snail. That was the breach. And in the case of Lim Kabi versus Abdul Latif, what was the breach there? What was the breach in Lim Kabi versus Abdul Latif? You remember that Malaysian case I told you? Lim Kabi versus Abdul Latif? What was the breach in that particular case? The breach was, what was the breach in that particular case? The road contractor, after doing the road work and everything, he should have cleared all the metal pieces and all the thing, but it was there at the edge of the road and it got corroded, got rusty. Am I right? And this guy was riding a motorcycle. He went and hit that thing, and that iron bar pierced his leg, and his leg was amputated. Am I right? Betul kan? Yes or no? Yeah, have I given you all this case?
Yes. Yes.
So he must establish breach. First element the plaintiff need to establish is that the defendant owed a duty of care. Then the second element, the plaintiff need to show proof is that duty of care has been breached by the defendant. Okay, so in Lim Kabi there was a breach, and also in Donegal and Stevenson there was a breach. But on top of that, you can also talk about the case of Bolton versus Stonewright. Bolton versus Stonewright. What was the law laid down in that case, Bolton versus Stone? What was the law? What happened in that case? The judge, you remember, the judge said breach can only take place if it is very common. If it happens very, very rarely, then it's not a breach, right? You remember that Bolton and Stone is a case where they've been playing cricket for more than 80 years, you know. Out of that 80 years, every day they've been playing cricket there. Every day they've been playing cricket there for the last 80 years, you know. Only 6 times the ball has come out of the fencing and hit somebody, which is very, very rarely. So the judge said here there was no breach. If it's frequent, then that's a breach. If very, very rarely takes place, then it's no breach, am I right? Because the degree of breach must be frequent. Very, very rarely taking place, then it's not a breach. Betul kan? Hello, can you follow what I'm trying to say here? Can you follow what I'm
Yes.
trying to say?
Yes.
Okay, once you have established breach ready, what is the third thing you need to establish? What's the third thing you need to establish? What's the third thing you need to establish? Once you have established breach ready, what's the third thing you need to establish?
The plaintiff must show that he suffered loss and injury due to the breach.
Then the third thing is the defendant and the plaintiff must show proof that the plaintiff had suffered loss, damage, or injury due to the breach. Am I right? Sometimes the breach could have taken place, but there could not be loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff. Then the defendant is not liable. Am I right? Okay. In Donahue and Stevenson, was there any loss suffered by the plaintiff? In Donahue and Stevenson, did the plaintiff suffer anything?
Stomach pain.
Was suffering from gastrointestinal pain. Am I right? That was the damage suffered or injury suffered by the plaintiff. Am I right? In Lim Kabi versus Abdul Latif, what was the injury suffered by the plaintiff in that case, Lim Kabi? What happened to him?
Physical pain. His body hurt.
Hello. His leg was amputated. His leg was amputated. You remember his leg was chopped off because he was a diabetic patient. They have to cut off his leg. Am I right? One of his leg. Betul kan? You remember the iron bar pierced his leg. The iron bar pierced his leg. Am I right? The iron bar pierced his leg. You remember the iron bar pierced his leg, and since he was a diabetic patient, they have to chop off his leg. Am I right? They have to amputate one of his leg. Am I right? Betul kan? That was the thing. So there must be loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff. If there is no loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff, then the defendant is not liable. And what is the fourth one? And what's the fourth one? And what's the fourth one? So now, before I go to the fourth one, the third one is there must be a link between the breach and the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff. That means, the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff must naturally flow from the breach, meaning there must be a connection between the breach and the loss, damage, or injury suffered by the plaintiff. Am I right? And what's the fourth one? What's the fourth one? What's the last one? What's the last one? What is the last one? The remoteness test. Am I right? Yong Wen Bin, Il
I thought that one is same with the loss and injury suffered.
no, this you can put it separately. You can put this separately. You can put it separately. Okay, what happened? Okay, so that means the remoteness test is, remember there, if it's too remote, then cannot claim. So the remoteness test is any reasonable person will come to a conclusion. If this thing happened, this is the impact of it. Any reasonable person can think of. If it cannot claim, it's too far, cannot claim. There you can explain two cases. The case of, which are the two cases? The Vagamount case and the Re-Polemich case, am I right? Betul kan? Betul kan? Yes or no? Hello?
What case, sir?
Vagamount. W-A-G-O-N.
Yeah, the repair
The
one.
ship, you remember the ship was burned down because of the leak of the petrol, remember?
Yeah.
The Baltic Vagamount. W-A-G-O-N-M-O-U-N-E. Okay? And another case is Re-Polemich. One case you just keep briefly, the facts is enough here. One case you just keep the facts is more than enough here.
The wagon mount, the
Tell me.
owner of the oil tanker liable towards this case.
Yeah. Betul kan? Okay, now any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay, now, so I also did mention to you earlier, that is how we establish negligence based on the case of Donahue and Stevenson, right? But I also told you all there is slight changes now taking place. Am I right? Slight changes taking place now, and we are slowly deviating away from the Donahue and Stevenson principle. Am I right? And we are heading towards what direction now? What is the case? What's the case I told you all? Hello? No, what's the case? No. Hello. You remember I told you all, yes, even though the Donahue versus Stevenson case is the leading case because the leading judge in that case was Lord Atkin, and that was the 1932 case I told you all, right? But we have been following the law laid down in that case in Malaysia. But in the last 10 years, we are slowly deviating away, slowly moving away from the principle of Donahue and Stevenson, and we are heading towards another direction now. What's the direction we are facing now? What's the case I told you? Kaparau Industries versus Dickman. Remember the case? Kaparau Industry versus Dickman. Did I mention the case Kaparau Industry versus Dickman?
Yes.
Okay. What's the direction we're heading now? Take down this here. What is the direction we're facing based on that case? Now is the first question. Is the damage reasonably foreseeable? Is the damage reasonably foreseeable? Is the damage reasonably foreseeable? So that means now based, okay, listen here, based on the Kaparau Industries versus Dickman, or Dickman versus, okay, in that case, what's the guideline now is, would any reasonable person, that means, is the damage reasonably foreseeable means, what do you mean by that? Okay, let's say any reasonable person will come to a conclusion. Any reasonable person will come to a conclusion that if this thing happened, this will be the consequences. This is the consequences which the plaintiff would be suffering. Any reasonable person knows that the defendant is liable. That is the first one. Yeah. Secondly, there must be close and direct relationship between the plaintiff and the defendant. There must be a close. That means in law we call it as close proximity. Close proximity or close and direct relationship between the plaintiff and the defendant. Close and direct relationship between the plaintiff and the defendant. And the third one is it must be fair, just, and reasonable for the claim. It must be fair, F-A-I-R, comma, just, J-U-S-T, and reasonable. If you can establish these three under this case, Dickman versus Caparo Industries versus Dickman, then you have established negligence. Clear? So you just mentioned this is a current situation now based on the case of Caparo Industries versus Dickman to establish negligence. First thing is the loss, damage, or injury suffered must be reasonably foreseeable. One. So that means, yeah, what do you mean by this? That means any reasonable person will come to a conclusion. Any reasonable person will come to a conclusion. If this thing happened, this will be the impact on the plaintiff. That's number one. Number two, there must be close and direct relationship between the plaintiff and the defendant, meaning there must be a close proximity. And the third one is it must be fair, just, and reasonable. The claim. The claim must be fair, just, and reasonable.
Teacher,
It cannot be.
you
Yes.
mean by the relationship of proximity? I mean, what you mean by they have close or direct relationship?
Close and direct relationship. That means, yeah, in another word, we use the word proximity. There must be a close proximity between the defendant and the plaintiff. That means, yeah, the plaintiff and the defendant is each other there. Close proximity, that means there's a close relationship between both of them. Then you can claim. That if there's no close proximity, then cannot claim. Example, yeah, you remember I giving you one example the other day, yeah. If let's say you're watching TV live telecast, you're watching live telecast TV, and live telecast is going on, you're watching a football match, and you know one of your relation or your family member has gone to the stadium to watch that particular match, football match. While you're watching live telecast, you see the stadium is collapsing. The stadium is collapsing and people are running up and down. The stadium has collapsed and it has fallen on top of the spectators who are sitting in the stadium. And after seeing that, you got shocked. Can you recover the loss, whatever you're suffering from the owner of the stadium? Cannot. What do you think? Hello? Boleh atau tak boleh? What do you think? Okay. Why cannot? You said cannot, right? But why you cannot claim? Why? Too remote, too far away, am I right? Betul kan? That means, thousands and thousands of people will be claiming, because it's too remote. The incident where it's taking place and the distance is far away. This is not too remote or there's no close proximity. You cannot claim.
Teacher, the close proximity is in physical or in terms of
Physical. We are talking about physical here.
so it's like distance between them.
Yes. And the third one is it must be fair, just, and reasonable for the claim. So that means whatever claim you're making, it has to be fair, just, and reasonable. If let's say the loss you suffered is only 10,000, but you want to claim 100,000, cannot. So what? So that's why the third heading is saying the claim must be fair, just, and reasonable. These are the three elements established under the case of Kaparao Industry versus Dickman. Kaparao Industries versus Dickman. So that means here, we are slowly deviating away from the guideline set under Donoghue and Stevenson. But I'm not saying Donoghue and Stevenson no more a good law. I'm not saying that. But we are also following that and also this. So you let the examiner know, you know what is the situation now. Are you following? Hello? Are you following? That you just dapat.
Yes.
Okay. Now, going back. Okay, once you have established all these things, then of course you have to discuss about the defenses, am I right? You have to discuss about the defenses, am I right? What are the defenses? What are the defenses? Defenses for who? Defenses for who? Hello? Defenses untuk siapa?
Defendant for the defendants.
You see, okay, before I go into that, yeah, hello? Before I go into that, yeah, I give you one more case here. Take down this case here. Hamza versus one Hanafi.
Teacher, can you?
Hamza, Hamzah, correct? Versus one WAN Hanafi, HANAFI. Got it? Got it? Dapat?
Teacher, this case is under what? Under the Caparo test.
No. This is just a case. This is just a case. You see, there are two tests. One is the test of Kaparao Industries versus Dickman. The other one is, of course, the Donoghue and Stevenson, right? This is one of the supporting cases. This is one of the supporting cases only, yeah? Okay, I just give you the facts of the case here and you comment on this, yeah? All of you, yeah? Just listen here, what I'm saying, yeah? The plaintiff. Hamza is the plaintiff, right? Betul kan? Hello?
Yeah, the name at the first name is the
Always the plaintiff, am I right? The second name is always the defendant, am I right? Okay. The plaintiff, a passenger, jumped off from the train and injured himself before the train fully stopped. The plaintiff, a passenger, jumped off from the train and injured himself before the train fully stopped. Okay? Okay. You got the thing? Right. The court held that the defendant was not liable because you know what happened when he jumped and injured, yeah, he sued one Hanafi, you know. The defendant is one Hanafi, right? He sued, you know. But when this case went to court, the judge said the court held that the defendant was not liable because they had taken all the necessary or reasonable and sufficient to safeguard the passenger's safety. There were written notices and oral warnings in the train. So that means, yeah, what are the wording in the thing is that they say you should only come out of the train once the train has fully stopped. But this guy, when the train is slowly coming to a stop, he jumped off and he injured himself. Is it the fault of the owner or the manager or whoever in charge of that train station? What do you think? Hello?
No, I think because already the defendant already taken all the
All
reasonable.
the necessary step, right? Because there's already signboard saying that you should only get off the train when the train has fully stopped. But the train is still moving slowly, but he jumped and he injured himself. Is the train, the owners, are they liable? Of course, no. Of course, they're not liable, am I right? Because that was created by himself, am I right? Betul kan? Okay, now going back to the defenses, yeah? The defenses, we're talking about the defenses. What are the defenses? What do you mean by defenses for who? Defenses for who?
The defendant.
For the defendant, am I right? Defenses of negligence. Okay, what are the defenses can you think of? What are the defenses available for the defendant?
Contribute negligence.
What is that?
Contribute negligence.
Contributory negligence, am I right? Contributory negligence comes under Section 12 of the Civil Law Act 1956, right? Am I right? Contributory negligence comes under Section 12 of the Civil Law Act 1956. Okay, what you mean by contributory negligence? What do you mean by contributory negligence? Is contributory negligence 100% defense for the defendant, or is it only a partial defense?
Partial defense.
Only a partial defense, because contributory negligence only reduces the quantum of damages awarded toward the plaintiff. Am I right? It reduces the quantum of damages awarded towards the plaintiff. Why? Because the plaintiff also has contributed towards the injury. Am I right? The plaintiff also has contributed towards the injury. What kind of situation can you think of here, Yong Wen Bin? Yong? How does contributory negligence take place? How does it take place? Tell me. How does it take place?
I give example lah. If
Ah.
the defendant
Okay.
drive others and the accident happened, the plaintiff did the plaintiff can like yeah it's like the plaintiff drive car careless and then cause bad heavy injuries, and then the defendant then then the defendant can like say the plaintiff did not wear the safety belt and then cause himself heavy injury.
Okay, so that means here you're talking about the elements of contributory negligence, right? So that means contributory negligence means the plaintiff has failed to take reasonable care of himself. Am I right? The plaintiff has failed to take reasonable care of himself. Or one, that is number one. And number two, the act or omission or conduct must be the cause of his injury, which must be reasonably foreseeable. Example, let's say that the plaintiff was not wearing a safety helmet. The plaintiff was not wearing a safety helmet, and he has suffered injury to his head. Okay, the head injury, let's say 30,000 ringgit. The head injury, the cost of the hospital and all the things, the medication, the surgery and all the things. And other parts of the body, 40,000. All in 70,000. But the head injury, the plaintiff has contributed the head injury, right? So what the judge will do, minus of the 30,000, and the balance 40,000 would be paid to the plaintiff because the head injury the plaintiff has contributed. That's what you mean by contributory negligence. Contributory negligence means still the defendant is at fault, but at the same time the plaintiff also has contributed towards the injury. So the quantum of damages which is awarded to the plaintiff would be minus whatever he has contributed, and he will get the balance. That is what you mean by contributory negligence. That is what you mean by contributory negligence. Depan.
Yeah,
You got it? Depan, yeah? Okay. Now, any other other than that, any other? Other than that, any other defenses? Any other defenses? Only contributory negligence, is it? What about voluntary non-fit injuria?
That one you didn't mention. You never talked before.
Okay, what are the defenses I given you all the other day?
The contributory.
Only that
Yep.
I given you all, is it? Okay. Contributory negligence one, yeah. Number two, voluntary, VOLENTI, voluntary non-NON, non-fit, FIT, injuria, INJURIA. What do you mean by this, yeah? That means, yeah, the plaintiff already given his consent. The plaintiff already given his consent. After giving the consent, if he suffered from any risk, then the defendant is not held liable. You got it? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
You see, example, yeah? Example, yeah? You're going for a surgery. You're going for a surgery. Before you go for surgery, the doctor will tell you, okay, these are the risks of this surgery. If you agree, we'll do the surgery. He'll give you a form to sign that you're giving consent for the doctor to do the surgery. Am I right? So you have given consent. If let's say he has tell you what are the risks involved, sometimes you can go paralyzed. Am I right? Okay. If anything that happened, you cannot sue the doctor for medical negligence because you have already given your consent. You can only sue the doctor if the doctor did not follow the proper procedure. That is medical negligence. If you have followed all the procedure, he has followed all the procedure, and the plaintiff has suffered any injury, then yes. Are you following? Okay, let's say you are going for a boxing of boxing. Yeah, you know there'll be injury, right? Okay, let's say your opponent has punched you and you have gone blind. Can you sue him? Cannot. Hello? Can you sue?
Can you
Yeah,
repeat again?
let's say you are participating a boxing match, boxing. Okay,
Yes.
your opponent has punched you and you've gone blind. Can you sue him?
Cannot.
No, because you have already given a consent to participate. You have gone in there voluntarily to participate with full knowledge the risk which is involved for marriage. Then you cannot sue. It's not a defense. Okay, because you have already given your permission or your consent, then you cannot sue. Then that will be a defense for the defendant. Am I right? Okay. Other than this, any other? Any other? You remember, I also told you another defense which is available is reps ipse loquitur. Remember
Yes.
the defense? That is also another defense for the defendant. What do you mean by that? Perhaps it's Lukita.
The
Can you
plaintiff not necessarily need to show the proof
why?
because the circumstances of the case are pointing that the defendant is on fault.
The circumstances of the case is pointing the finger at the defendant, am I right? Because no others would have gone in there. So in this situation, you don't need to show proof, yeah. Other defenses here you can think of, yeah. I just tell you, yeah. You can also add in exclusion clause. Exclusion clause as a defense also. You know what's exclusion clause, right? In your law of contract also you have done exclusion clause, right? Let's say a big signboard is saying, please avoid standing near this place. Please avoid this area. A big signboard. And you are ignoring that signboard and you are going there and you're injured. Can you sue? Can you sue?
Cannot.
Cannot. Because they've already given you a signboard stating, a signboard saying to restrict from standing in that area, right? But you ignored that, you went there. That you can also use as a defense. Okay? The owner of the premises have already put up a signboard. Please don't come near and stand this place. It's a very risky area. And you ignore that and you're standing there. That also you can use as a defense. Okay, as long as you put these 3 defenses or 4 defenses is more than enough. Okay. Hello, any question? Okay, another thing here. Now, you remember I did, you remember the OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Act? Can you all remember
Yes.
OSHA? OSHA meaning that the, you know what's OSHA, right? Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994. Remember I did explain to you all there you need to know, focus on section 12, 13, 14 of the OSHA. What are the rights of the employee and what are the rights of the employer and employee? And also, what are the protection granted under the Occupational Safety and Health Act for the employer and employee? Okay, what I'll do is that here, we'll have one more class here. Even though this officially this is your last class, am I right? What I will do here, since your exam you're commencing only on the 28th, am I right? 28th, am I right? And also here, supposed to be on the 18th, am I right? Initially it's supposed to be on the 18th, Janice? Initially, when was your exam supposed to be 18 or 20?
Previously, is it you mean?
Obviously.
Previously is 18 to 20 something, I think.
18, am I right? Okay, so what we're doing now, they postpone it to the 28th here. What we'll do here, maybe when's your law paper? When's your law exam? The date?
The schedule haven't come out yet.
But it's from the 28th till the end of first week of January, am I right? Or second week of January or something like that, yeah? Okay, never mind. What we'll do, yeah? Are you all celebrating Christmas? On the 25th, are you all free? To Prolimo. Or we don't go to, what's the date today? 17th, right? Okay, 24th. Okay, 24th of December. Are you all free, all of you? Are you all having any classes? What is 24th, yeah? What is 24th of December?
24th is Thursday.
Okay, 24th is Thursday. Yeah, 11 to 1. Are you all free?
Yes, sir.
Oh, me, yes, I'm free.
Okay, I think all of you should be free because that is our normal slot. Am I right? Okay,
Yes.
that's our normal. What I will do here, I will go through on the Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994. What are the rights of the employer and what are the rights of the employee? Okay, what are the rights of the employer and what are the rights of the employee under the Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994? That you need to know. Yeah, I will focus and I'll give you some cases on that also. I'll go through. And also, yeah, are you all clear on the rule of Ryland and Fletcher? You remember the rule on Ryland and Fletcher? That is on strict liability, am I right? It's on strict liability, am I right? Okay, I will go through that. And also one more area I'll go through again is on nuisance. Nuisance, because nuisance, we have private nuisance and public nuisance, right? That I'll go through with you. Okay, so I'll go through with you all on OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994, and also I'll go through very briefly on nuisance and also the rule which is established under its strict liability, yeah, Ryland and Fletcher. Remember the escape, it escaped from there and of course it caused some injury and all the things, right? Are you clear on that? These areas, and also one more area here is on the occupiers liability. Occupiers liability, have you heard of occupiers liability?
Yes.
That also I'll go through. Even maybe we might stretch a bit longer, maybe than 2 hours here. It's okay. We'll try to stretch. By then I would have known clearly what is the situation of Imperia on whatever areas or whatever. Okay. So meantime, you'll just start focusing on all the things here. Okay, you have any question to ask me?
No.
Any question? Yeah. Any question?
I have a question to ask you, sir.
Ada?
Can confirm 24.
Okay. Another, what's it? Hello?
I have a question to ask. Can
What's the question?
confirm or not 24? Give us a class.
11 o'clock.
11. Yes. Confirm, right?
Confirm. 11. Yeah. I will be also free because that's what I'm always free. 11 to 1. Yeah. But it could extend a bit longer. Maybe we'll have 1.5 hours class and then we'll take a small break and then we'll continue. You all don't have class after that, isn't there? On Thursdays. Saturday then. You all are free or no? Thursdays, right? Hello?
Yes, I'm free.
And then also, yeah, please go and read up the areas here. You remember? Trespass to land, person, and goods. You remember? Trespass to land,
Teacher,
person.
about the trespass to land, last time you haven't finished up the element. The trespass to land, you haven't finished the element. You only
Person to goods and person, is it?
both you already finished, but land I think you still left out a bit.
Okay. Okay. You just remind me on the 24th. That means we'll do that first and then we'll go the rest. Okay. Right. Okay. Any other question? Any other question? Tade.
No.
Law of contract, you all know how to study, right? Law of contract, you all know how to study, right? What are the areas are you all studying for your law of contract?
The question items.
Huh?
Law of contract.
Often acceptance, you're going through that often acceptance, am I right? Often acceptance, are you all studying often acceptance? Other. I think you all should be okay, not worry. So that means, yeah, the 24th, what we'll do is that I'll just go through the elements on for trespass to land, and then I go into the OSHA, the 1994, and then the strict liability, Ryland and Fletcher, and also on nuisance, and very briefly on occupiers liability. Okay. But when
Okay.
you'll be getting your actual timetable, yeah?
On Monday should be.
coming Monday.
Yes.
Okay. So just let me know, like, when's your law paper.
Okay.
Yes. Thanks. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.